scream out.
So you saw from the title, this is a tiny little window into what I've been alluding to about why is everything in my life taking so long. You saw brain, ADHD, fire, and fury. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it's like to have this kind of brain, especially as a woman, how it impacts me, and why it's changing everything about how I'm going to be moving forward when I can get organized, which may be never. So with that, it's not going to be a diagnostic video. It's not going to be a checklist for those of you who are wanting more information on how to identify or deal with your ADHD. This is my story, one tiny label, one little piece of the window into the greater picture that I will be crafting maybe from going forward. But first we're going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to see you on the other side.
In the name of Vermont, we defy all the world. And cheer, cheer, the Green Mountaineer. And cheer, cheer.
I need my soul to scream out. Tell me, how do we get so brave? Tell me.
So why am I talking to you about my raging ADHD? Well, there's a couple things. One, I have totally forgot that that is an issue for me. I remember that I have it, but it's been a long time since I've really looked into it. And I started listening to a woman, I think her name is Tracy Osuka. If I can get my stuff together, I will link to her website below. But she puts out a podcast, and I started to listen to some of her podcasts, and I'm like, oh my God, she's talking about me. And the reason that's so important is it was just showing me what I am doing to myself in terms of making myself miserable, in addition about why I can't move forward and why my life is such a cluster so much of the time. And more importantly, how I can start to rein that in and then move forward in a much more profound and productive way. So, most of you have heard me say, I have a little bit of ADHD. I have a raging case of ADHD. And in addition to that, it affects women a little bit differently. Just an interesting statistic. About 90% of women don't get diagnosed. The higher your IQ, the less likely you are to be diagnosed because you can mask it. But what I'm learning, and I did learn a couple things. One is I've been drowning in my weaknesses. My weaknesses are organization, the day in and the day out, the redundant, the boring, the mundane. And I have been wallowing in my weaknesses, trying to dig my way out so I can get to my strengths, which are the abstractions, the ideas, the creativity. I can't ever get there because I'm drowning in what I don't do very well. Now, I'm not in a position to hire it out, and I don't have help. So I have no idea how long it's going to take me to dig out of this, but at least I'm understanding something constructive and reminded. In my weakness, I get negative. And when I get negative, I get less dysfunctional because the ADHD brain needs positive emotion to move forward, and we don't celebrate our successes. So, just as an insert here, the last few months have not been a complete disaster. I have packed up and moved out of New Mexico. I got back to California and did have quality time with my parents, and I have learned a lot in a short amount of time about living off-grid. These were 3 huge key goals for me that I have been struggling with for so long. So, kudos, Jill, you actually got something done. But all I can do is focus on everything I haven't done. So that is number 1. Now I'm ready to take the next steps. So I've been just overwhelmed with ideas and information about where I want to go from here. But I want to talk about just one tiny piece that I really just grabbed onto in a brand new way. And So I write everything down in the morning. I do what's a download. I am so overwhelmed with information and ideas, I can barely function. And because right now there's so much energy in the ethers, I am getting so much download all the time. I am completely bottlenecked. It's just, right? I'm wondering if that's what the eye pressure is all about, because I can't move forward because there's so much information out in the world. And that's why I write down every morning, and that is my download. But there's so much information, I don't know what to do with it. And I've been struggling to figure out what to do with it, because these short videos to me are, they're fun to make when they're creative, but what makes my brain happy, which is basically music videos with a lot of editing and a lot of tempo and a lot of variation, nobody watches and nobody really likes. So I haven't known what to do with that. But the other thing that I'm super passionate about and I love is the graphic novel style, sort of the mixed media, print and imagery in a very interesting way. So I'm going to really try to figure out, or I have figured out, I'm going to start trying to do that with my time and effort, because at the end, video and audio are transient and they're just going to disappear. But I'm already moving away from my main point. So the second piece of that is listening to her ideas. There's something called RSD, and it's called rejection sensitive dysphoria. And I may have gotten that all wrong, because I know I wrote it down and I can't find it. But the crux of that is it's more common in women than men. Only about a third of women with ADHD have it. But almost every trait within it is negatively focused. The core of it is this inability to regulate yourself emotionally. And sometimes when you guys give me feedback, I just want to scream, because you don't understand all of it, and I hear it as weakness. And I just had another one of those experiences where I bumped up against people's discomfort with my energy, because that comes out as defensiveness and defiance, which often makes other people uncomfortable. You know, I've learned that the best way for me to navigate the world with my personal energy is to stay away from everybody. For those of you who think I would be nice and fun and easy, I am not. I am intense. I am uncomfortable. I am all over the place. I tend to get stuck in the intellectualization, which is not helpful for women. I think as women need to, like me, need to stay in our heart and our spirit, but it's so hard for me to do that. And part of that is this emotional deregulation. I think I move into the intellect because that's where I can get away from it. What I've noticed is because most men have the same kind of brain I have, and there's a lot of other stuff that goes into this, not just ADHD. They're famous and successful because most people like me are men. There's very few women who operate the way I do internally. And so this extra piece, this emotional issue that I don't know what to do with, I finally figured out today, this morning, what the positive about this discomfort that I cause people, this defensiveness, this strong, intense energy that's defiant. And I'm going to tell you a little story, because this is when I started to notice I was different than other people. And I was working at Target. I was 18. You know, I have a lifelong history since day one. No. You know, that was probably the first word I said. I don't know. No. So that's just a natural instinct for me. But the caveat is my no is usually in relationship to injustice, to not telling the truth, or trying to be moved against something that just doesn't feel right for me to do. So I'm sitting in one of those group meetings at Target, right? 18-year-olds, minimum wage. I think there's about 100 people in the room. And they were telling us that we were there to volunteer to donate a portion of our check to the United Way. And I think we had to raise our hands. And I said no. And I was only one of, I think, 2 people in that entire group that would not donate a portion of our check. It isn't because I didn't want to help people. And at that time, I didn't even know that the United Way had other things going on with it. All I knew is that they were trying to manipulate me into conforming by group pressure to get what they wanted, which was to reach a target goal for their store. Is how many people did you get to sign up? I didn't know all that. I just knew I'm being pushed into something I don't want to do, and I'm going to say no. And that, I think, is what this kind of energy is for. It is the capacity to say no when everybody around you is conforming and complying and is afraid and is following rules and is giving up their freedoms. And could anything be more important than in this moment in time to have people who have the ability, to the discomfort of everybody around them, to say no, to stand up, to face people that are trying to take your freedom from you, and be willing to die holding on to it. I think that's pretty damn important. So I feel really good about having a positive strength coming out of this capacity that I have to be flooded with energy in a way that everybody around me can't get away fast enough. Even freedom goes and sits as far away from me as he can. But I was excited to be able to reframe that this morning. And so the second thing I'm going to start doing, and I couldn't upload it, so it may or may not be uploaded when you watch this video, is that each morning I'm going to do my download in here. And then I'm going to create what I call Notes from Survival Road. And it may not be every day, but I got to do something with all this information and these ideas. And I want to focus on print. And so I'm going to be over at survivalroad.net. I'm going to list it as a PDF for you to either look at or download, print out, keep, whatever you want to do with it. I really want to focus on people like me, people who have a lot going on in their energy and in their mind. People who are creative, people who are nomadic, people who are willing to do what others aren't, people who are willing to run into fires, not away from them, people who want to stand up and run towards danger, people who know they're in the crucible and they're not going to quit, people who are going to run the gauntlet, surviving the tests and the trials, not because it's personal reward or personal gain. It's because you can't not do it. There's something inside of you that says, I can't not do this. And that's post-crucible crash. I think that's where our power lies, and that's where I hope to work with people individually. But this is who I want to run to. I want to run to people who understand what the heck I'm talking about, because I will never get along with most people. I will never be comfortable for most people, and my strength isn't conforming to be with most people. And I am willing to not have hardly any contact if I can do the internal work that is so important and so valuable. If you guys really understood everything that was going on, and you can't, because it's just too much. You can't. This has been my focus for 40 plus years. This is all I've done. I didn't get married. I didn't have kids. I didn't chase a career. I needed to know what the truth was. Not out in the world, but what the truth is. And if we knew it, we wouldn't be human and we wouldn't be on earth. So this isn't something that's definitive. It's an ever-evolving process, but I have spent my life devoted to this project, this understanding. And I know I was born for this. I know that this is the moment in time where it's coming to fruition. And I know if I don't find a way to do something with everything that's within me, I'm going to explode. And I'm probably going to lose my eyesight if I don't figure out a way to do this. So the reason it's taking me so long is that these are my weaknesses: organizing, structure, function. But what I know to be true is that it doesn't matter what's going on out in the world. All that matters is who you are within the context of what's happening in this world. And who I am, this is my story that I'm going to be sharing with you to hopefully inspire you to really own your story. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter who wins and loses. All that matters is who we are in the crucible, and that we say yes to running the gauntlet. That's what matters. And so this raging ADHD, that's just one of the 3 labels I'm choosing to own about myself. You heard nomadic outlander, raging ADHD, and the third one is creative genius, which I really got from Jordan Peterson. So I'll talk more about those later, but this is step 1 in terms of me owning my story, so that I will hopefully inspire you to own yours, and at the same time finding a way to get out whatever's going on that's unbearable for me within, because there's so much. I gotta find a way to get this information out. Not because you need it, but because I am going to go crazy if I don't figure out something to do with it. So that's my least favorite talking head videos, but for now, until I figure all this out, I just got to start somewhere. Those of you who have this little brain will understand exactly what I'm talking about. It's never going to be perfect, but if I don't start, I'm going to just go crazy. I am all fire and fury within. I've spent a lifetime trying to figure out how to fit without. It's never going to work. I'm getting okay with that, and I'm going to work really hard to get back on track with what my strengths are, and to let go of focusing so much effort on my weaknesses. But time will tell. So with that, deep breath, and if there's any of you left, we'll see you next time.